Do you know who you are? I mean, really know? What if the body of flesh you're in is unnecessary and you could just copy your mind and continue your life in another physical form? Would you do that so that you could be free from growing old and getting sick? SOMA brings up these thoughts and the idea of the soul and body being two separate things. It also brings up the consequences which may occur with this theory in regards to what makes us human and where our identity starts at. In this video, I'll be discussing some of the philosophical ideas in the game. This year, I got more into philosophy, so I'm definitely not an expert on it. I'll try to summarize the basic concepts whenever I bring them up, so hopefully this video will fit most of you, so we can discuss things such as identity and autonomy in the comments below. For anyone who hasn't played SOMA yet, I'll do a quick summary for you guys, which will include spoilers. But that doesn't mean that the game won't be worth playing yourself, as the horror themes and just the storytelling itself makes this game one of the best from the Frictional Games team. I'll put up chapters so anyone who just wants to skip to the juicy stuff can do that. So let's get on with it, shall we? SOMA is a survival horror game made by Frictional Games, the same company who's developed the famous Amnesia and Penumbra games. Hopefully we'll get another Penumbra one day. You play as Simon Jarrett, who is a normal Canadian guy with a normal job at the bookstore. A few months ago, he was in a car crash, where his friend Ashley died, while Simon was left with a severe brain damage. A doctor by the name David Munshi contacted Simon to ask if he wanted to be a part of a brain scan study, to figure out how to reconstruct brains. Without his knowledge, and perhaps Munshi did not know the length of where this study would go, Simon became the first template for future copies of the brain. 100 years later, Simon 2 wakes up. Now, why do we call him Simon 2? Well, Simon 1 died about 100 years ago, and his brain scan is now in a new body. He wakes up in Pathos 2, an underwater facility which seems to be taken over by certain black goo, which is the structured gel that works as an electrical conductor. Simon meets robots who seem to say that they're human, which upon later revelation is true. Their brains have also been copied to save mankind. Apparently Earth was struck by a giant comet, ending the civilization, except this underground facility, what we know of at least. To save mankind, a person named Catherine Chun worked on a project named the Ark, which is a capsule that would float in space, with these copied consciousness inside, using solar energy to keep a simulation running of a perfect world. Now, why are the humans in robots of Pathos 2 though? Well, you remember the black goo named Structure Gel? The facility had an AI named WOW, short for the Warden Unit, which was used to oversee the whole facility. Imagine Mother from the first Alien film. The WOW wanted to try to keep mankind alive. Together with the structure gel, it tried to define what a human was, which made the WOW transfer any brain scans on the facility into the robots. This also made anything and anyone that got infected with the structure gel to come alive, creating mutated monsters who most likely were in a coma state, not being aware of what they were doing. Simon 2 and Catherine Chun meet, and she's just a computer chip, another brain scan. Simon has a hard time accepting the truth about the brain scans, and how theoretically there could be multiple yous at the same time. Catherine has accepted this truth, however, which I'll go into later in the video. To continue the story, Simon 2 has to transfer to a new body. When he does this, he becomes Simon 3. He has the same memories as his earlier copies, while Simon 2's version is still in the same room with him, conscious. These two bodies are able to act as Simon, but can create their own memories if they choose different paths in their lives. In the end, Simon 3 and Catherine manages to send out the Ark, leaving the copies of them still at the bottom of the ocean, while the new copies are up in space, in the simulation of Ark, hopefully living a perfect life. If you look up the definition of soma, you will see that in ancient Greek it's a noun for something material and physical, a body.
This is my vegetarian body!
While if we go to another part of the world, South Asia, the birthplace of Hinduism, we can see that soma is a drink used by gods in rituals, made by an unknown plant, which gives immortality. It is confirmed, however, through Frictional Games' own blog, that the developers were going for the Greek perspective, with the intent of making you question if you are who you are because of your physical self. However, the Hindu concept of immortality does fit into the story of soma. The game brings up continuation multiple times, which means the continuation of oneself to survive the extinction of humanity. While the game does not mention immortality as the core concept, living in the Ark for thousands of years could resemble their attempt of immortality, as natural aging and death does not seem to be something programmed or at least prioritized into the Ark. In one of the in-game surveys, the game brings up the question of having childlike robots that would learn and evolve. But is that really a life? If it's just AI fabricated to replicate human tendencies and evolution? We can also ask ourselves if we would live in the perfect simulation without any diseases, natural aging, and death. Would that really make us human? What makes us human in the first place? Is suffering human? Or is it just a cancer hindering our potentiality? As the famous contemporary philosopher Kelly Clarkson once said, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." Jokes aside, the existential philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche... hold on, I'll fix this.
Friedrich Nietzsche
did say that which does not kill us makes us stronger in his book Twilight of the Idols. This perspective adds to what the core of human existence is. By overcoming difficult experiences, we can grow from them, therefore helping us humans reach our potentiality, which we can see in Soma. With the comet's impact erasing most of mankind, Catherine Chun's pet project Ark became humanity's last hope to continue living. With that said, learning from difficult situations is what makes us human. Perhaps we would just be in a standstill without it. This is why the ending of Soma worries me. If the Ark erased disease and other negative concepts that we as humans already know of, what will the new roadblocks be? The game already brings up thoughts of existentialism, and checks up on the player regularly to see how these thoughts have changed over time. So imagine what the residents in the fabricated world of Ark might feel after living there for a couple of years. How much of your physical self can you change until it's not you anymore? Is that even possible? Soma nuances the paradox of the ship of Theseus, which basically is about how the ship of Theseus got repaired with new planks over time, making philosophers question if that ship was still the same or not. The protagonist Simon Jarrett continues his life in different physical forms. Firstly, he has his body in Toronto, only to find himself transplanted into the body of Imogen Reed in Upsilon. The third is the body of Rayleigh Harbour in the power suit, and lastly is the body that's in the Ark. It might be easier to discuss having a human change physically rather than a ship, as we don't know if or how a ship would feel in this situation. If you're sitting down at your computer or perhaps walking around in the grocery store trying to pick out the most perfect yellow bananas while listening to this video, you're most probably aware of what you're doing. I think, therefore I am, is a famous statement made by the philosopher René Descartes, which was used to prove that there are concepts with an absolute truth, which also became a foundation for the idea of Cartesian dualism, which is Descartes' way of distinguishing between the body and mind. By using this statement, we can reflect on how our identity may transcend our physical form. SOMA does not specifically bring up this philosopher, but at the same time, we understand that Simon is still Simon, even without his original body. The same goes to Catherine Chun and the rest of the teams of Pathos 2. Therefore, to be aware is to exist. Elizabeth of Bohemia is also an interesting philosopher with a direct connection to Descartes. She had contact with him through letters, where she questioned René's theory of dualism. She acknowledges that free will is undoubted, but she does bring up that there may be a physical connection needed to let that free will exist. SOMA, similarly to Elizabeth of Bohemia, questions the theory of body and mind. Even if Catherine does not have a human-like body, she does have other physical bodies to keep her existence. When Simon disconnects and connects the Omni-tool which Catherine resides in, she seems to continue speaking and acting as there were no interruptions, no matter how much time has passed between those points. She does not let the constant change of environment affect her and her mission. Just like Descartes' theory, she has accepted her existence as a mind and does not let her physical body stop her. It's worth mentioning that she gets affected when she finds out about her death. Not because her body is dead, but because of her colleague killing her. This could be the feeling of betrayal, which can challenge her understanding of her past relations. She later adds into this perspective that she doesn't seem to have had any real friends. Simon has a harder time to accept the theory of existence, as his mind feels connected to his physical body, which makes it hard for him whenever he has to switch body, or to understand that a newer version of himself is being sent up into space with a new body. The version who is stuck in the abyss will most likely not see the sun, artificial or real, ever again. He will roam around hopeless and alone, being in a body that is not his, but of a dead female worker. He does not seem to have the opportunity to overcome this roadblock, as the world is ending and he is the last conscious, quote-unquote, human on Earth. According to Albert Camus, another philosopher, choice helps to define our identity. It shows what our values are in certain situations. We get to follow Simon and understand his character. Some examples of this is how he decides to lie to Robin Bass about making it to the Ark, to not let her know the devastating truth of her condition. He is also compassionate and tries to assure Catherine that her death was an accident, instead of enforcing the idea that no one likes her, which we do know through many of the clues we find in the game. Whenever he gets the opportunity, he takes the best ethical option. But it's not only Simon that gets to show his values. The player also gets their opportunity. There are multiple times in the game that the player is offered options, which for example is literally pulling the plug on multiple people Simon meets, such as Robin. In my own perspective, I pulled the plug on everyone, but with Robin, it was harder. I don't know if it's because of her naivety, or maybe that I could relate to her because she's also a girl, or something else. But in the end, I decided that I couldn't leave her there at the bottom of the ocean with no one around. Loneliness is one of the worst feelings I myself has ever felt. And I've met people who also have been very alone. So I put my own feelings onto Robin, not wanting her to realize the truth and be stuck in this state, and pulled the plug. Hearing her screams of agony and fear was so heartbreaking, and it made me question why I thought I had the right to decide over someone's life like that.
Maybe this is paradise.
I'm sorry, little one.
Let me go! Stop it! Please!
Oh, shit.
Philosopher Immanuel Kant emphasizes the importance of respecting an individual's autonomy, which entails considering how one's decisions will impact those affected. His philosophy also raises the question of whether our choices are made with genuine respect, or if they merely serve our personal purposes. In the game, we encounter an opportunity to honor someone's decision, which is Sarah Lindwall. She requests that we pull the plug and be present with her during her final moments, a choice I decided to honor. This decision provided me with a sense of assurance that the times I ended someone's existence in the game were aligned with their wishes. However, upon later reflection, I questioned whether I should have made those choices for those who did not explicitly request it. It was only at the game's conclusion, where Simon is left alone in the abyss, that I truly grappled with whether my previous decisions were driven by ego. At that point, I wished for Simon to receive the same consideration I extended to those I pulled the plug on. Unfortunately, there was no one left to help him.
Catherine? Please don't leave me alone. Catherine? Catherine?
SOMA is probably one of my favorite horror games of all time. Not only because of its horror themes, such as the big undiscovered ocean, but because it made me realize and question the meaning of identity. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully I showed you some paths to go if you want to learn more about philosophy. There's still so many ways I can go into depth regarding this game and its perspective on philosophy, but I'm gonna try not to get another existential crisis, so let's delve deeper another time. As usual, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions of the game. I'm curious to know what choices you made, and of course what you thought of the video. Until my next video comes out, have a good one.